Settle down, brother. This is the Quarter Report powered by ENC.com. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. The Police Commission, the Madlanga Commission into police and political corruption and fraud has been indefinitely delayed by the Justice Department. If that sounds absolutely whack and two ways and upside down to you, well, welcome to South Africa, because this is not the first time that the Justice Department of South Africa has thwarted, delayed, or undermined the attempts by the judiciary and, in other cases, the NPA to achieve justice around massive cases like the Madlanga Commission and state capture. We're going to explain how political incompetence / intentional incompetence, arguably potentially, can undermine attempts to achieve justice and pursue criminality in South Africa. And if that wasn't enough, former Police Minister Bheki Cele has now been shown, it seems, to have lied, because he denied any kind of friendship or business relationship with the now seemingly about to be convicted Vusimuzi Cat Matlatla, who is under investigation for trying to have his ex-girlfriend assassinated and for being involved in at least a couple of extremely dodgy tenders. Bheki Cele denied that he had any kind of special relationship with Cat Matlatla, despite staying for free in Cat Matlatla's penthouse suite in a hotel in Pretoria. Well, it turns out that there are phone records showing that he called Cat Matlatla 10 times in a day directly at a time in Cat's life where things were about to go really crazy, and that he exchanged close to, if not over, hundreds of text messages with someone who he claims, does not know. Welcome to the Quarter Report. The only place to watch the full show is on enca.com. If you're watching on YouTube right now, click on the link in the description. And by the way, I realized that we have somehow become a really successful YouTube channel, despite not doing the most important thing to become a successful YouTube channel, which is asking you to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Also, there's another link in the description. Go get some merch for 3Beanies Network and the 3beaniesnetwork.com. Okay, let's start with Bheki Cele and Vusimuzi Cat Matlatla, because this is the perfect example of somebody or two people who should be about to be called as witnesses already on the 1st of September, but won't be called as witnesses on the 1st of September because the Justice Department has fumbled the procurement of critical resources and infrastructure. We're going to talk about that in a bit. And so you can see exactly how justice is delayed and stymied and undermined, or processes to achieve justice, through examples exactly like this. So, former Police Minister Bheki Cele continually denied knowing Cat Matlatla as a business person or a friend, despite confirming that he had stayed in Cat Matlatla's luxury penthouse suite in a hotel in Pretoria when he was staying there. He said it was just like he needed somewhere to stay in Pretoria. Okay, but you're the police minister. Why did you stay on the private invitation of an individual who, by the way, was already involved in tenders? Somebody who would get the 2.3 billion rand Tembisa hospital tender that has been shown to be mired in corruption and illegality, and somebody who would then get this 360 million rand tender to provide health services to the South African Police Service, which was only stopped once it had already started. So Cat Matlatla already got tens of millions of rands, despite the fact that the tender was cancelled because of irregularities. Now, News 24 has obtained phone records that reveal that Bheki Cele, who previously insisted that he and Cat Matlatla were neither friends nor business partners, tried to call the tender tycoon 10 times in a single day. This is Jeff Wix's reporting. If you call anybody 10 times in a single day, and they are not your friend or business partner, they can only be a delivery service who's not delivered your package. That is the only, that for me is the only other outcome. You are waiting for a package and it does not arrive, maybe even an Uber Eats driver, and you are calling them 10 times in a day to try and figure out why your thing hasn't arrived yet. Vusimuzi Cat Matlatla is not involved in any kind of delivery whatsoever. Ironically, he's definitely not involved in service delivery, because the tenders he gets keep getting cancelled and found to be corrupt when he's supposed to be providing service delivery. The times at which he called and the time that he called. So as Jeff Wix reported, all of these calls were made on the 9th of May, which was around the time that Matlala was threatening SAPS with legal action if they terminated his 360 million rand tender, which he'd scored 7 months before and had already received tens of millions of rands for. Jeff Wix reports, these are the calls, times on that day. 8:39 a.m., then 9:42 a.m., then 11:46 a.m., then 1:32 p.m., then 3:54 p.m., and then in the evening at 9:45, 9 past 10, and 11 past 10. They were all missed calls or rejected by Cat Matlala, but like desperation, like starting in the morning on the hour and then an absolutely flurry of panic late at night. Like, again, you should only be calling somebody that many times after 10 if it's a sneaky link who you've sneakily linked with before. Like, there is no other reason to be doing that. And no, I'm not speaking from personal experience. I've read articles on the internet. It is absolutely crazy. So then the tender was cancelled a few days later, and then Matlala was arrested for this attack on his ex-lover, Tebogo Tobayane, who was targeted by hitmen. They exchanged texts or calls on more than 100 occasions. Bheki Cele insists that he doesn't know this man, but clearly he does. Clearly he lied on the record, just the same way that the current police minister on special leave, Senzo Mkhwanazi, lied on the record and then had to go back on those lies. These are exactly the people who should be investigated, should be in the first week of calls to the witness stand for the Madlanga Police Commission that was set to start on the 1st of September. Now, earlier this week, the head of the commission, Justice Madlanga, he announced that due to failures from the Justice Department, that the start of the commission would be indefinitely delayed. Now, this is completely unacceptable, and we're going to explain exactly what the delays look like happened, although the Justice Department has been notoriously evasive about what exactly went wrong, but Karen Moore did some good reporting on what exactly seems to have happened this morning. But Madlanga made the point that the first deadline for feedback to the President Ramaphosa after 3 months isn't from the day the commission starts. It was from the day that Ramaphosa made that announcement. So he is expected, and the country needs feedback, that first interim report after 3 months. And now there are going to be literally fewer days to do any witness investigation, to do any kind of compiling of reports or cross-examining of witnesses. There are going to be fewer days for them to get that stuff done before the 3 months are up, and he has to submit a report. And then the only next interim report is 3 months later. So this delay, and remember it's indefinite at this point, is already screwing over the commission. I said in the intro that quite often the Justice Department seems to stymie, prevent, or undermine the work of investigators. We're going to talk about some examples, another significant example of that in a second, and you can decide whether or not you think that a Justice Department led by an ANC appointee that is fundamentally a political department, whether it's kind of suspicious that the Justice Department often seems to undermine investigations into ANC cadres. That's up to you, not me. But here's what you need to know about this specific story. So they were supposed to procure key infrastructure. Now, Eric and I were wondering what key infrastructure was until this morning, vital infrastructure. It seems like for this commission, they need to get secure cell phones. They need to get secure streaming services so that we can all watch these public hearings. They need to get secure laptops on which to do the commission, to compile information, make sure that information is protected, can't be hacked, can't have anything ripped from like leaked reports and that, can't meddle with the evidence, and that these laptops and cell phones are secure so that they can rely on communications between different people who are giving evidence or at least conducting the commission. And it seems like the Justice Department has completely failed to procure the laptops necessary to run this commission. So now the head of the Justice Department, the second head, by the way, the second Justice Minister, Mamloko Kubai, announced on Tuesday 25 laptops had now, quote, been delivered and are being configured to ensure IT security for the inquiry, but did not say how long the process would take, which is just great. That's fabulous. That's what we really need right now. She went on to say secure ICT infrastructure, searchable forensic data storage, cybersecurity solutions, and integrated email website services are procurement award stage and will be concluded today. That's Tuesday. The fact that they're only at the awarding stage on Tuesday, like not a week before this commission is supposed to start, is so negligent and so unacceptable from a department whose exclusive job it is to make sure that the NPA, the judiciary, and commissions can actually pursue criminals and can actually pursue justice. It's really extraordinary. And then Kubai did something quite wild. She announced that she had notified the Director General and the Deputy Director General of the Justice Department that they would be suspended for these failures. Their names are Doc Mashabane, the Justice Department Director General, and Jabu Tlachwayo, the Deputy Director General in charge of IT. They've been notified of their potential suspension over this saga pending, quote, a full investigation and disciplinary process. Continuing the quote, this is because of the failures and lapses in the system and also not being able to do due diligence and ensuring that the commission starts on time. But did not go into any details of exactly what they had failed to do, exactly what had gone wrong and why they were being suspended. Which is like unbelievably unacceptable again. It's unacceptable for any government department. It would be unacceptable in business. It would be unacceptable in the private sector, in any part of the public sector to say, yeah, we're suspending these two people because they fundamentally failed the purposes of this business. We're not really going to tell you the stakeholders why, though. We're not really going to explain ourselves properly to the board or the press or anybody who owns a stock in this company. And this is the latest example of completely undermining processes of justice that need to happen in this country. Like, the Madlanga Commission has every right to be furious about this. The South African public should be absolutely livid about this. Like, Mdlanga was able to get together what looks like a pretty superstar A-team of prosecutors, legal experts, investigators, and the rest to do their work. And they literally can't start because they can't go to Incredible Connection and buy a secure laptop themselves. They rely on the Justice Department to get this stuff done, and they have been fundamentally failed in the one way that they weren't allowed to do it themselves. Ramaphosa's address about this was ages ago. It's so negligent, so undermining of justice, so screwing of the Madlanga Commission. It is extraordinary. And again, it's up to you to decide whether or not this kind of, whether you want to see this as political meddling to help out ANC-connected people from ANC-connected people who run the Justice Department. But what if I told you that this is not the first time, and there have been many examples of the Justice Department acting in inexplicable ways that undermines attempts to pursue justice. Now, I'm only going to give you one example. And the National Prosecuting Authority has been incredibly disappointing on a lot of cases in the last handful of years. The fact that they've not put anybody in orange overalls over state capture, the fact that they've not been able to pursue or effectively pursue people like Omotoso, they have failed and screwed up many, many, many times. And there are completely legitimate criticisms of Shamila Batoy, the National Director for Public Prosecutions, the head of the NPA, and people around her. But here's the thing about the state capture stuff, or at least some of it. More South Africans should know and be outraged about the fact that the Justice Department holds all the archival records for the State Capture Commission. And the NPA needs that archive to add information to their investigations to then pursue criminal cases against accused people who have evidence against them. And guess what? The NPA quite recently was in a fight with the Justice Department, a public fight over the fact that the NPA said that they could not access that archive because the Justice Department hadn't given them permissions or the tools or the passwords to do it. And this feels like a situation where maybe we need less Justice Department in the justice system, where we need the commission to get a whole bunch of money and for them to go and procure the laptops. If the Justice Department is unwilling, unable, uninterested in doing it on time or efficiently, even though that's their whole job. Similarly, maybe the Justice Department shouldn't have the control over the archive of state capture at the point at which the NPA can't get access to that information from the Justice Department. It's incredibly frustrating in a moment where South Africans need justice, in a moment where South Africans need answers, in a moment where with every passing day, evidence could be covered up, witnesses could be intimidated, people could disappear. All these things could be, with every passing day, it gives more time for people who are worried about getting found out by the Madlanga Commission to destroy any chances for the Madlanga Commission to catch them. So frustrating. And the fact that Kubai doesn't even have a date of commencement, and the fact that the Commission had to go on public record to denounce the Justice Department in order to force the Justice Department to explain themselves, hurry up their processes and actually take this seriously is crazy. Way, way, way crazy. This is the kind of time, Eric, where I just feel like we're just going to be talking about the same stuff for years on this show. Because we had to do no research there. We were just like, oh yeah, that, and that. We talked about that last year. We talked about that year before. We talked about that year before. Same problems. We had to do no research for this beyond reading the latest reporting from Jeff Wicks and Karen Moore. Like, we didn't have to do any of that. Same problems over and over and over and over again. And the only way that this is going to stop is with political change. The only way. Our country needs to become a competitive democracy. And I think that it is coming. I think next year's local elections will feel like that. I think it'll be a harbinger of stuff to come. Great word. Harbinger. And then we'll see what happens in 2029.